Hey everyone, Ashley Mailloux here, taking a look at the Tuesday race of the day for June 10th. It's out at Assiniboia. It's race number 4 on their program, and it's a 2-turn event, 7.5 furlongs on the main track. It's an allowance optional claiming event. That optional claiming price is $22,500, and no one's entered for the tag in this 6-horse field. But as we look at the names in here, it's a little bit of an interesting group. We will take a look at a few replays later. Exacting ran huge last time out, was the runner-up behind Jeff Fafa. And that's an interesting replay to watch start to finish. Now, Jeff Fafa most recently raced in the SSPW and didn't fare too well, but a horse that has been pretty difficult and a little bit of a menace, especially with his style in the past. The 2 Pinky Ring Bling ran very well last time out. You go down the page, there are horses such as Magic Tiger that I think will appreciate the stretch out and distance. The 4 Corridor ran very well last time out, now in a new barn. The 5 Falsely Accused, another one that potentially could like the extra distance, and then all the way on the outside, the 6 Blazing Bow. That's certainly going to be the case if you go back to the form last year. So it's not a huge field, but I do think it's an interesting one to handicap and try to look at the pace perspective. And as we move to the time form US pace projection, no speed. Sometimes we see fast pace, we see maybe no comment at all, but no real speed in here, and a couple of horses might be involved early. Now, I don't think they're going to go all that quick at 7.5 furlongs, but have to think the 1 Exacting, you go down the page at longer distances, he's typically a little bit more involved. The number 4 in here, Corridor, he's coming out of some sprint races where last time out they kind of crawled on the front end, 49 to the half, but you go down the page, races 3 back at 6 furlongs. Depending how quick they go early, I could see him being somewhat forward. I don't see him being the pace setter, though, necessarily. And then they show the 3 maybe here of Magic Tiger tracking. And I will say with Magic Tiger, I think going longer, he typically can be more forward, but there really isn't any true speed on paper, which is going to make this a very interesting race as you kind of go through the past performances and try to figure out what riders and trainers are going to decide to do here, because you don't want to be so far back, but you know, everyone sort of likes to sit from off of it and make a late run. So we'll see how the pace scenario does play out, but the 6 Blazing Bow does have the LP, the late pace flag, attached to his chiclet. Let's dive right into it here with the number 1 Exacting. Let's actually look at that performance last time out. Now, the stretch run only tells us part of the picture, but when you look at the entire race, very odd run from Exacting. He actually drops back to last in a compact field, and looks cooked would be the word that I would use. He just looks like he's done. He doesn't want to be involved. And you watch the stretch run, he's not really on the screen for a vast majority of this race, and then somehow he finds his best strides late. And I think it's a very good second place finish. He got a nice number for that effort, a 73 buyer. He obviously was able to improve returning to Assiniboia. I think it's when you look at his form at Fawner that 2 of those 3 races, not really great. One of them was okay, that was the race 3 back, but he just wasn't able to fire his best efforts at Fawner. I think you go back to his races last year at Assiniboia, he was a menace. He was 3 for 13, but really good form. He was even, 8 for 13 in the money, and his running style, I think at 7 furlongs or even longer, we saw him be competitive in a mile and a 16th. He can be more forward, and I think that's going to help him. So maybe that weird run that we saw last time out is just because it was a sprint going 5.5. So excited to see him stretch out. The 2 Pinky Ring Bling, another one that comes in here off a second place finish. And as we take a look at this replay, I thought it was a very good effort. I think when you look at the winner totalizer throughout, he was always in front of Pinky Ring Bling. Always had the jump on him, and Pinky Ring Bling had to circle a little wide there, and he's clear of everybody else. So the top 2 were much the best in here. I thought, maybe it just came down a trip for him, but I think in terms of sort of gearing up and getting to Assiniboia for the first time, I thought it was a really good effort. You can see he was racing down in Texas, Oakland Park in the winter months, and a horse that, he doesn't necessarily win all the time. He still is 7 for 42 in his life, but a horse that's very consistent. And you look at some of his sprint races, I know it wasn't a great effort, but 4 back going 6 furlongs at Sam Houston, he was a little bit more forward. So I wonder what the tactics will be with Pinky Ring Bling. I have a feeling personally that he will be closer than we saw him last time out. Yes, he's going longer, but I think that's going to be a conscious effort by the rider here not to be so far back and not have to, lose so much ground having to travel wide. So also like that he draws the 2 in here. The 3 Magic Tiger, this one for Wendy Anderson. Race 6, in the return to the races. It was at this level, but it was going 5 furlongs, and you can look at this horse last year. The one win came in a $50,000 cup race and was going 1 mile and 1/8, a horse that should appreciate the added distance in this spot. I guess my concern, Exacting and Blazing Bow go down the page. Typically, they are finishing in front of him, and he has to face both of those rivals in here. Didn't love that return to the races. Still wish we could have seen more, even knowing that he doesn't want to go 5 furlongs, that he wants to go longer. That's just a little bit of a tough sell for me, at least for the top spot, but no knocking him. A very interesting horse who's 13 for 39 in his career, and 6 of those wins have been over this track. The 4 Corridor was a winner last time out. It was actually claimed out of that event for 12.5, and it's interesting to see how the race panned out because the fraction suggested that the top 2 should be staying in front. I mean, they didn't go all that quick. We're talking 24 and 4, 49 to the half, and the top 2 were second and third best. I think that tells you a little bit about Corridor, that he was just better than those horses. This is technically tougher competition than he's going to face, but he's very consistent. He's another one that's well-traveled. He's pretty much fired at any circuit that he's been to, and I think if he's anywhere near 8-1, he is an interesting play in here. Figures-wise, he needs a little bit of a boost, but nothing crazy at all. And very impressed that he could close into slow fractions last out. The 5 Falsely Accused, 15-1 on the morning line. First time racing here over this circuit, and you can see so far Fawner this year just hasn't been able to get rolling and has been flat in each of those races, has really never been able to do much. Finished 8th in those last 2. So don't like his recent form. You go down the page, think it's been tough to find out what this gelding wants to do. Obviously, they've tried him from anywhere from a 6 furlong race to 1 mile at Fawner. They tried him on the turf at Turf Paradise. And, I guess his best effort would have been the 4th place finish on the turf there. And the turf races, you might say it's Turf Paradise. They can be pretty tough, but his form, just as of late, he would really need to improve in here. And then rounding it out is the 6 Blazing Bow, who we saw finished 3rd in the race that Exacting exits. It was his first start since September, and just go down the page. He doesn't want anything to do with 5.5 furlongs. He's another one in here that's a major contender on the stretch out. 7.5 furlongs last year. He was able to get a win, and you can see was competitive going 1 mile and a 16th and 1 mile and 1/8 as well. And I think, he probably got a lot of fitness out of that last race, and to me is more of a workout than anything. So expect him to really step forward. And the connections, both rider and trainer, they are off to a very good start at the meets. That's the field of 6 for the Tuesday race of the day. It's race number 4 out at Assiniboia. Don't forget, free past performances for this race on the DRF website. And if you're looking to get involved, there's a $50,000 guarantee on the dollar pick 4, and it gets kicked off here in race number 4 on Tuesday. So we'll move to top picks in here. And when I look at this group, I don't necessarily want to use even money on top. I want no part of that. But I think when you look at Exacting's effort last time out, just really odd, a very curious effort to see this horse. I really suggest watching the replay start to finish. At no point does he look like a winner, and you can't even see him for part of the stretch run. And the way that he's able to close, I thought it was a very, very nice effort. I think he's going to appreciate the added distance, and he'll be my top pick. I will say, though, underneath, going to go with a price, the 2 Pinky Ring Bling. We watched that replay. I think he was a little bit of a disadvantage when you look at the winner. I think they were much the best in that field of 8, and I wonder what he can do now with his second start over the track. I think the distance, 7 furlongs is something that he's seen, and he's had 1 success at the distance. He hasn't had a ton of success, but very curious off what we saw last time out to see how he'll perform. I think he could offer value in here compared to others, and another one that I think we're going to see a better performance from. And then from here, I thought it was wide open. The 6 Blazing Bow makes a lot of sense, a horse that as the season progresses, once you start to see races maybe in 1 mile and 1/8 effort, he is going to be a menace. Just a very, very productive horse last year at those longer distances. So he wouldn't be shocking. He could easily win here as well. And then the 4 Corridor, he sort of has to, I guess, prove himself in some ways. He was able to win his first outing, but when we talk about these horses, Exacting and Blazing Bow, they have, met up a lot of times and have a little bit of a rivalry. You saw that a lot last year. Corridor is that fresh face who will need to prove himself. But I thought in terms of his first race over the track, talked about the fractions. To close into 49, it's pretty impressive. I mean, they want 101 and 2 for 5 furlongs. So there's 2 ways to view that. Do you view that as a weak field, or do you view this as a horse that was able to close when he shouldn't have been able to, knowing that the second and third place finishers were part of the slow pace? But for me, very curious about the exotics in here. The one exacting, I think, looks very tough, as long as we don't see that same thing necessarily happen that occurred last time out. But the 2, Pinky Ring Bling, I wouldn't sleep on him at a big price. So 1, 2, 6, 4 for me. Race number 4 this Tuesday. It's the race of the day out at Assiniboia. Good luck.